We're going to change the tone a bit of some of the questions we've been getting in. We've had a couple of questions which are quite based on theology and have a religious specific angle in terms of history as well. But the next question we have is from Muhammad Akram Darsab from Cardiff. Jazakallah for your question. He says that he views the program fairly regularly. Well, Akram Saab, we hope that regular becomes every week, and I'm glad you find it very interesting, and Jazakallah for your comments. But he's looking at the concept which is engulfing the current economic world, indeed the world that is. And this is the whole interest of the banking crisis, the credit crisis we currently see the world experiencing. And his question is this: I wonder if the panel could clarify the subject of interest being charged by the banks in the Western countries especially, as the economies of these developed countries is based entirely on interest. How can we convince them, and by them Akram Saab is referring, I'm sure, to the Western countries, that by abolishing the levy of interest, their economies will still thrive and prosper, especially when the system currently is based entirely on interest? Jahangir Saab, if I could come to you to begin with on that one.
I think that Western governments need no convincing about the benefits of Islamic banking, an Islamic banking system which is, let's remind our viewers, interest-free and ethical as well. So they invest in ethical ventures and not in unethical ones. The fact that Islamic banking, to add to that, was largely unaffected by the recent financial crisis, brought it really into sharp focus in the Western world. And now we see that the UK has become a major centre for Islamic banking within the West, and many major banks in the UK now offer Islamic options. And I can also inform you, because I've actually seen a documentary on this, it's not only Muslims who go for those options, but a lot of English people go for them as well, because they're ethical, and because they don't want to be in the system of interest anymore, and because they think that this system of banking is better. It's not something which is, which is unreal, like the regular banking system which we've seen so far in the West. There's also an interesting report on the website of Euromoney Seminars, which spoke of the recent, the September 2009 Euromoney seminars of Islamic finance in Paris. They held a very big conference there. Yeah. And this was attended by both Christine Lagarde, who is the finance minister of the French government, and by Christian Noyer, who is the governor of the Banque de France. So that's just to tell you what high level, attendance was there.
How much seriousness is being given to the subject.
And according to their report, which I'm going to read here, just a brief part of it, they said that Islamic finance is on the verge of bursting onto center stage in France. Recent changes to the legal and tax regimes have paved the way for Islamic financial institutions to provide French borrowers lines of credit that can no longer be extended by cash-strapped conventional banks. So I think the Western governments really need no convincing anymore, and they're trying to find ways to incorporate Islamic banking into their own systems because of its stability, because it's ethical, and because it frees them from interest as well.
This whole issue of ethical banking, some would argue actually there is no such thing as ethics and bankers, but we'll leave that to another time perhaps.
But we can say relatively more ethical.
Well,
everything's relative.
Indeed it is. And when we see the banking system that is currently, a lot of the questioner has put it in the context of Western countries, but it was a global system followed and nurtured and, if you like, replicated in all parts of the world. As I said, everyone blames the United States, and I'm no way suggesting that just because you hail from that country, that's the reason I'm asking you. But nevertheless, when the crisis blew up, it was all about lending money which actually wasn't available. It was artificial, it was bloated, it was blown. There was the two famous banks which were set up, I believe, during the Clinton era, which actually lent to people who didn't have the means to then return on that. So it was a vicious circle, and that continued to see in the crisis we're seeing now. Wasn't a concoction of a month or two. It was actually something which has spread over many years.
Yes, and the actual danger of all this is, which I'm sure people are very aware of, we are trying to salvage the wrong things. We're trying to help the bankers to remain afloat and continue a system which they've already seen has
some call it humanitarian aid, but I'm
detrimental
not quite sure
effects throughout the society. And this is what Islam is talking about. There are no shortcuts to this solution. Either you must adopt this fully as a system, no interest, or you're going to bound to wind up in the exact same position you were before. See, what we're trying to do, reduce it. Reduce the percentage points on the credit rates or the loaning system, how much interest you can get back in terms of percentages, etc. Instead of just saying abolish the entire system as the Quran is advocating. And we've seen this done during the days of the Holy Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So we know it can be done. The economic system which he was growing up in was based on these things as well, trading and bartering and, you know, getting more back from the goods you sell. He introduced the integrity, the honesty, and the complete abolishment of the greed of a man desiring to gain more than he has invested back.
Indeed.
See? And until we get to that level, I'm afraid to say we're going to see the crisis repeat itself. And, you know, greater thinkers in this field have spoken the same truths that I have. I could have quoted many things, but in general principle, this is the greatest struggle I see now, and the fear I have now, that America and parts of the West are trying to salvage and save this system instead of letting it go. If they had let it go there was a good segment, in fact, in the U.S. population that were demanding the government do not bail them out. Like any other business, if they fail, let them fail. We will learn from this poor, you know, management and judgment of error on our part and on their part. And what I say by our part, I mean we as a people buying into the fool's gold. That I can gain everything I want in life, a big home, wonderful car, you know, the whole wardrobe, live on easy street, and invest nothing now, but I can do it on interest and pay it back later. Yep. Later never comes. Indeed. Later comes when you're on the street and they're pulling your car off.
Exactly, the loan sharks are in. And, yeah.
They've sealed up your home. Right? Your wife is saying, "Tata, because we're divorced now, you can't take care of me and the kids." And you're just miserable because that is the end of this fool's gold. You see for what it is. So unfortunately, we have been part of it, but I believe that if Jahangir Saab is saying correctly, people are beginning to recognize we need a greater solution. And people in the U.S. as well, they're recognizing this, and they're, at least in the new administration, attempting to consider other options.